Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to this session that we are having today, building. Hello. Can everybody hear me? Sorry, I think I'm losing my sound. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Great. Oh, great. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here. This is a great session, and I hope you will get to enjoy it. We are with Mayama and Designathon, and we're exploring inequalities within families and building creative solutions for inequality within families. And we're very excited to hear from a wonderful array of hosts, a wonderful array of speakers. And we're just going to have a good time, and we're gearing up for that, to learn, to share, and to grow together. If I can just have everyone use the chat function to share with us everywhere that you're joining from this morning, so that we can just have a sense of the room. And as we do that, I will go ahead and share that we are recording this session for the purposes of hopefully sharing some more across our social media channels, but also continuing to get these ideas in and learning and growing from them. So I just hope that that is okay. And if it's not, please feel free to chat to me directly, or my colleague Rianne, who is you might find in the gallery. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, hi, Buddy. Buddy is joining from Guadalajara, Mexico. Bienvenidos. And that's all the Spanish I know for this morning. So welcome. It's so nice to have you among us this morning. Who else is joining and from where? It's nice to see just, oh, Nairobi, Kenya. Habari, Michele. Karibu sana. Welcome from Amsterdam. I don't know how to say welcome in Dutch, so I will let that slide. Nicole from Guadalajara. Welcome, everyone. It's just so nice to be able to have a wide array of people joining us. Hey, Kati from Mexico City, welcome. It's nice to see you. So to begin with, to kick off our session, I will invite Gabriel, who is the lead of Mayama, to please open up this session for us in style, a sanctuary style to be specific. This is a process that Mayama does throughout when opening some of their sessions. So it's nice to be able to learn from that. Gabriel, welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Gabriel León, head of Mayama, and I want to share you a ritual that we carry out in Mayama for the beginning and end of our sessions with children and families. It is called a sanctuary, and it provides elements of physical, psychological, emotional safety for people who have been affected by violence. This dynamic is part of the community gathering model proposed by Sandra Bloom, and I'm gonna show you. I'm going to ask you to share 4 elements with us through the chat, and these are: what's your name? How you feel right now, emotional? How are you feeling emotionally at this moment? In which country are you located? And what is your expectation of this meeting? And I'm gonna ask Nancy to read your responses, so please go ahead. Feel free to express yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabriel. If you could just share that one more time. So we should write where we're joining from, how we're feeling, and what else?
What's your name?
Yeah.
How are you feeling emotionally at this moment? In which country are you located? And what is your expectation about this meeting?
All right. So if you can write, our names, how we are feeling, the locations we're joining from, and our expectation from this show, from this session. I know, I'm so excited. I'm calling it a show. So maybe I can start. I'm Nancy. Obviously, I'm feeling very excited. I'm joining from the United Kingdom. And I am just excited to learn today. I am very excited to learn from Mayama.
Thank you, Nancy.
Sure. And what about you, Gabriel? How are you feeling today?
Yes, hello, I'm Gabriel. I'm feeling really excited, just a little bit nervous, I'm going to share. And I'm in Guadalajara City right now in Mexico. And my expectations is to share other people what what is this project that we are handling in Mayama with our ally Designathon. Thank you.
Great. And Rosa shares that she's feeling very enthusiastic, and she's joining from Mexico to be able to learn. Daniela is also excited. She's in a good mood. That's so nice to hear. And she's joining from Guadalajara, Mexico. Ina is joining from the Netherlands. She feels very curious and she wants to hear more about the project. Paula, she's the head of the Secretariat of Substantive Equality Among Women. And we'll be hearing from Paula in just a little bit, and she's feeling really pleased to be able to hear and share with us today. Michele from Kenya is ready for the weekend, aren't we all? And she's excited to hear about great community building. Sarah is happy to be here, and she wants to learn best practices from NGO and government. That's fantastic. It's so nice to hear from all of you. Just keep those coming. We will keep reading them out whenever time allows. So please keep sharing with us how you're feeling, any expectations you have as we move ahead with our program. I would like to take this time to invite Paula to the stage now to speak with us. Paula, like I said, is the head of the Secretariat of Substantive Equality Among Women and Men from Guadalajara, Mexico. And she will share with us a talk this morning about gender inequality context from macro to micro. So welcome, Paula.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you. And I would like, first of all, to thank you for the space and the opportunity to talk about gender inequality. We will talk about the fundamental role of developing capacities for individuals, communities, and families in order to respond, manage, and act against these inequalities. I want to start reflecting first on the relationship between gender roles, stereotypes, and gender-based violence. We believe that gender stereotypes are social, historical, and cultural construct imposed to individuals since birth. However, throughout history, it has been observed that the social relationship established from gender roles and stereotypes tend to generate conditions of inequality, power imbalances, and bonds of social subordination for women, which limits their development and the full exercise of their rights. The combinations of different inequalities determines the opportunities that both women and men have through their lifetime, and in many cases holds very economic, cultural, social, and territorial disadvantages that negatively affect the quality of life of girls and women. Family heritage, roles, and stereotypes, as well as local customs, mother tongue, and even the place where we are born, are elements that determine, limit, or improve people's well-being and personal growth. Gender, in certain contexts, generates inequalities since birth. It determines the opportunities that society can offer to people and shapes the conditions in which women access their rights, such as education, food, health, or housing. It is important to point out that gender discrimination, it is not by any means the only factor that reproduces inequality. However, it exacerbates other gaps, which are difficult sometimes to overcome. I will now offer a general context of violence and inequality between women and men in Mexico in order to have a better understanding of the size of the challenge we are facing today. In Mexico, girls and women experience daily challenges in accessing opportunities and the full exercise of their human rights as a result of the gender roles, stereotypes, as well as the sexual division of labor. However, the problem of girls and women lie not only on the lack of access to employment, educational, and economic opportunities. One of the most serious expressions of discrimination and inequality against them is gender-based violence. It is a phenomenon that does not distinguish between social class, age, or educational level, and that limits their personal and social well-being. Violence against women is considered gender violence due to asymmetry of power and sexism in which women are commonly considered inferior than men. It is presented through multiple expressions, such as physical, sexual, emotional, economic, and physiological, psychological assault. It is important to understand how gender-based violence is constructed in order to identify its causes and to understand how it particularly affects girls and women. This also helps to articulate specific actions in order to eradicate. According to UNICEF, the most common violent practices against children from up to 14 years old are psychological and physical aggression and severe physical punishment. Taking into account data from the Mexican National Survey of the Dynamics of Relationships in Households from 2016, 38% of women experience at least one type of violence during childhood. 32% report to have suffered physical violence. 18% reported to have witnessed psychological violence. And 9.4% have experienced sexual violence. This survey also shows that the percentage of women between 15 to 85 years old who were sexually assaulted by a family member are higher than those assaulted by a non-related person, which make us focus on the context of the importance of preventing violence from the center of the family. According to UN Women, the type of aggressions against girls and young women who receive attention from the Ministry of Health between 2010 and 2015 at the national level were 89% receive attention regarding sexual violence, 84% due to economic violence, and 83% from psychological violence. The study, there's also a very interesting study that was conducted in school sites in Jalisco, which is called the Incidence of Violence Against Women in the State of Jalisco, shows that 57% of girls and adolescents have received pinching, hair pulling, pushing, pulling, slapping, or had an object thrown at them at their school. 17% of girls and adolescents witnessed beatings and physical attack against women in their family. 15% have been kicked or punched at home. 21% of girls and adolescents have witnessed verbal violence against women who live in their house, and 17% have experienced physical aggression. Also, 20% report consumption of alcohol in their houses, and 9.7% said at least one family member consumes drugs. The challenges generated by violence are accentuated when unpaid care work is added to women's lives, which not only has an impact on adult women, but also on girls and young women. According to data from the National Survey on Time Use from 2019, unpaid domestic work within their households, women aged 12 and over reported to spend 30.8 average hours a week, while men in the same age range recorded 11.6 hours per week. Despite their full-time work within the labor market, where men and women work around 40 hours or more, for women, there is no significant reduction in hours of unpaid work. Women reported 12.3 hours of their direct care, which are specific activities to attend, assist, accompany, monitor, and provide support to household members and others, and 20.8 hours within passive care, which is simultaneous or secondary care activity in which you are watching or caring for another person while performing another activity. In family and social coexistence activities, women report higher participation rates and average weekly hours compared to men. However, men report a higher rate of participations in performing personal and chosen activities such as sport and physical exercise. In Jalisco, according to the National Survey of Occupation and Employment in 2021, labor participation for women was 40.46% compared to 78% of men. And the wage gap between men and women is evident. Regardless of educational level, women earn less than men. The largest gap in relative terms is in those persons who do not have any educational level, since women earn 42% less than men in this condition. There's also another interesting number, which shows that 48% of working women are informally hired and do not have access to social security, which obviously impacts the quality of their lives. And when it comes to payment, working mothers report lower average incomes than working women without children. And since the number of children increases, the payment also decreases, which is very worrying. In family and social activities, women report a higher rate of participation average weekly hours compared to men. Meanwhile, men report a higher rate of participation in carrying out personal, oh, I'm sorry, I already said that. And there's also, from this general context, also related to violence and inequality, we can also mention that in private sphere and in the private sphere, there's a pressing risk factor of violence experienced in the home and poor parenting practices and parenting skills, such as authoritarian behaviors, aggressive disciplines, or conversely lacking boundaries, that in turn lead to insecure attachments between caregiver and children. Additionally, skills lacking a gender perspective that perpetuate stereotypes and stigmas in childhood, roles granted from birth based on the social norms of what is considered feminine and masculine, often results in an upbringing that accentuates the growth of girls and boys in unequal conditions, and also in exclusionary and discriminatory practices. Likewise, in dominant power structures that lead to sexism and microsexist behavior and practices, actions that are later learned and replicated by children who will learn that problems must be faced with violence and will apply these learnings in the various areas of their lives. So this context gives us a very profound perspective of the relationship between gender roles, stereotypes, and how it affects sometimes in violent practices that diminish the lives and conditions of young women and women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paola. That was so profound. Thank you for all the information you've shared to us. And certainly, I'm sure there are questions, there are comments. There's just so much I'm sure that we all are going through and are thinking about right now. I think that then segues into our next session, which is breakout rooms. And in those rooms, it's just going to be so important for us to think about all the information that Paola has shared with us and what we've learned from that. But more importantly, it's nice to probably know and find out what aspect of inequality do we worry about the most. So you could ask yourself individually, what aspect of inequality worries you the most? And what, of course, did you learn from Paola's profound presentation? Rihanna, do we have our breakout rooms ready? Then we can begin to go into those breakout rooms for this important discussion and unpack all the information we've just heard, reflecting back on it and thinking about what issues around inequality we worry about the most. Rian? Yeah, and my colleague has just put the question indeed in the chat box. So this is something that I think we can see in the breakout rooms once we're in there. And of course, I welcome thoughts already in the chat, or if you just raise your hand in the gallery. We could hear from you. What did you just learn from all that Paola has shared, and what aspect of inequality worries you the most? Rian, do we have those rooms open? Yes, we do. We have the rooms open. So I think everyone is just already being automatically sent through there. I hope you have a fruitful discussion. I'm certainly really looking forward to hearing some feedback from everyone. So it should, I think, be a very nice and an exciting one as well. And if you're having any trouble joining the breakout rooms, please just maybe raise your hand and we'll be able to see that. Is everyone managed, Rihanna?
So all rooms are open, and I see in every room we have 2 people, but some people they haven't moved yet. So just have a look and see below on the screen. There's an invite for you to join a breakout room, and please feel free to unmute if you're having difficulty.
And of course, if you find it entirely challenging, we could make a breakout room right here for ourselves, right? We could have the discussion. Happy to hear from anyone who is willing to share what did you just learn, and an aspect of inequality that worries you the most. It would be nice to hear. Even if you haven't joined a breakout room, please feel free to share with us, maybe through the chat, or just unmute yourself and share with us. Michele, anything that comes up for you?
That was extremely interesting, Paula, and that's a lot of hard work on collecting all that evidence. I had just wanted to confirm, was that specifically in Jalisco, or was that a larger region, the data?
Some of the studies and some of the data are specifically for Jalisco, and some of them are from the federal information, so the national information. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is not much difference in the main percentage of data from the the reference from Jalisco and from the federal and national data. There's a similar line on average, and but there are a very profound difference, especially on the rural areas, no, and especially on the lack of access to education and the difference on the wage and the range of salaries and perception for women and men. And in the metropolitan areas of the state of Jalisco, the concentration of violence situation is worse than in the non-metropolitan areas. No. Yeah, that's some of the I didn't present those information, but there's also an interesting and concerning difference that leads to politics and the needs of political practices that are specifically oriented to attend and to decrease these numbers of violence and inequalities.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I like that you combine the topic also with the stereotyping and what effects stereotypes have and these gender norms and gender rules for children. That's what we'll do later today. That is something that Design-a-thon approaches as well, especially when you want to talk to children about it. Mm-hmm. What do you see? What do you notice? And I think sometimes that is missing from this conversation, but I love how you combined it all together, how that affects gender inequality, how that leads often to gender-based violence and the circle.
Buddy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Just adding to what Michele said, I think is very interesting what Paula was talking about, this division between with unpaid care work, because I think the tendency is usually when we talk about this topic in the gender agenda is to think about the amount of hours that adult women invest in unpaid care work, but I think it's very interesting to understand how it also affects girls and teenagers in their development and their participation in the community when their parents, especially their mothers, invest so much time with unpaid care work that is not specifically related to their education or accompaniment, no? Or the absence of the fathers in this process, which I think is very interesting to also understand that it's not only a matter for adult women, and how much time they invest in their own care, or the possibility for them to access a job, but also impacts the dynamic of the rest of the family and also the community.
Thanks for sharing that. Rihanna, do you think there's a chance we could, I don't know if there are any breakout room challenges per se. How much more time do we have for breakouts?
So we have 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I just wanted to add from that from what Buddy added. There's also a very interesting relation and interesting in the matter that I think that for the purpose of the dialogue that we are holding this morning, in order to make to design positive interactions and positive educational process in order to change these practices that promote inequality or that sustain inequality. There's also very interesting to see the relationship between like the caring of the hours that are dedicated to caring, and not only the direct hours, but the passive hours, of this, because women and girls and young women are always like, there's a very typical practice that they say, okay, I'm going for girls and young women, parents get out for work or to do other stuff, and they are supposed to look out for the brothers and sisters, the younger ones, and they are supposed to also be doing some care works, some course of the house and some other or their school homework, but they are also taking care of others. So the quality of the production, for example, if they're doing their homework, the school homework, not the quality of the production of the work that they do while caring for others. It cannot be the same as if you're focusing directly on it. So it affects their learning and their school results, and so it is like an indirect exclusion, and an indirect impact of these responsibilities, that put girls and young women in not in the same level as the boys and young boys, in the school and in the community opportunities and activities, which is also like holding them from developing their capacity at their best, I think.
Thank you, Paula.
All right, I think the plenary is back in 654. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is back in the plenary, and I hope your discussion went really well. Can we get some feedback? Please, we would love to hear from you on the questions that you were discussing in your breakout rooms. Would anyone like to share with us what aspect of inequality that you worry about the most? It would be really nice to hear from you. Also, please feel free to use the chat function to share with us. Fernanda, welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. I was in a group with Miriam, and we were discussing that security is one of like the most things that we should care about, because we have normalized so much the violence, and we do the same things to others, even though we have a good purpose or a good cause or a social cause, because we are so much involved into violence that we are trying to take care of it, right? And also that these security questions also have to be visualized from institutes and other organizations that are looking forward to always stand over other people's rights. So you will be able to visibilize violence And also you will be able to empower, to embrace other women or other people to fight for a cause, right?
Thank you so much, Fernanda, for sharing that. Security indeed is such a critical aspect of it. Any other worries, thoughts, and ideas we can hear out of the breakout rooms? Please also feel free to use the chat if you can't unmute yourself, and I will be happy to read out your thoughts and your concerns. It'd been really nice to hear from the other breakout rooms as well, how the discussion went and what came up for you. I think, Michele, you were sharing something interesting as we wait for everybody else. Perhaps you would like to share with everyone. Sorry to call you.
Okay. No problem. I had just shared in our breakout that I appreciate the full circle connection from Paula's presentation. First of all, it's entirely evidence-based, so it's hard to hide from the facts. That's always good. And that it included the importance of what this means for stereotyping or gender norms and how it's perpetuated, and that, you know, the aspect of children then seeing it, internalizing the concept of role modeling, how this is all connected and important to always present it together. So I thought that was great. I recently saw an interview with Trevor Noah, who's a South African, but now quite famous in the US. And he grew up with an abusive stepfather towards his mother. And he tells this story of every time she went to the police station, the police would ask her, but what did you do? What did you say to the mom? And he said, even at 8 years old, I noticed this. I realized it, that if a woman is complaining about domestic abuse, basically, that you question what she did. And I thought that was a really powerful story.
Yeah, thanks.
And the connection between the whole family,
yeah,
what children see and how that affects as you grow into adults.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that with us. Any other, anyone else who would like to share with us any different thoughts, maybe, off of the presentation in the breakout room?
Hello, I'm Sophia from Guadalajara too.
Welcome, Sophia.
Thank you. Well, in our breakout room, we talked about the importance of how we educate our children, because like all the moral values we have now as an adult, they are like reinforced when we are kids. No, that's something Paola talked about, and to do so, we also have like to de-learn. I don't know how to say it in English. Like to learn again how to deconstruct what we learned as kids, because we were raised with this like patriotic system.
Yeah.
So we talked about like examples. Like I'm not a mother yet, but Romy and Rosa are. They talked about experience where their daughters faced some kind of violence in their kindergartens, and it can sometimes be seen as something normal, or like they were just playing or something like that. But it is very important to know that this is not true. Like kids playing does not have to involve violence, and maybe like if we don't pay attention to it, we might even say like, oh, it's because he likes her, and some of this kind of like stereotypes or prejudices. So we have like to learn again also how to be mothers that can teach these role models like good, like so our daughters and also our sons know the importance of like shared responsibilities at home, that violence is never an answer, that girls can aspire to so many things, like not only to be mothers or wives or any of these kind of roles. So we talked about that, the education we give our kids since they are very, very young, very important for when they grow up.
Thank you so much for that, Sophia. I think the concept of unlearning is such an important one to raise. And of course, that point obviously it's a nice point to bring in our next speaker, who is the head of Mayama, who's mostly why we are here today. Gabriel Barragan, he's a psychologist with a degree in management and development, and he's collaborated with Mayama since 2010, serving as its general director at the moment. We are very excited to hear about the work that Mayama has been doing in this regard. And I think off of the last point, it's really important to then see the solutions that currently exist on the ground through your work. Gabriel, welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm going to share to you what it is Mayama, first of all, and then we're going to talk about the project, the main project that we have right now. So let me talk about it. Mayama is a civil society organization based in Guadalajara, Jalisco, the second largest city in Mexico. And for 11 years, we have been working in favor of children's human rights through an innovative educational model. Our mission, as you can see on the screen, is to help girls, boys, and their families who live in circumstances of poverty, social exclusion, and violence to develop their potential to overcome the difficulties of their environment and substantially improve their quality of life. Since 2015, the year in which we obtained the special consultative status with ECOSOC, we have aligned our programs to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development as a commitment to children in Mexico. As we talk about, Mayama combats the effects of three major social problems. The poverty, understood as the lack of access to economic and material resources, the social exclusion in terms of access to children's human rights, and violence on the three levels that Johan Galtung addresses: the structural, the cultural, and the direct violence that women and men and children and the families are living. Our model, our educative model, is a 4-year educational process that works systemically through 3 programs. My development program, whose main objective is to develop in children the 10 skills for life proposed by the World Health Organization. The My Family program, which it strengthens the parental skills of the families of these children that we work on my development program, and the My Rights program that accompanies families for the restitution of children's rights that had been violated. In this sense, Designathon's works project-based learning proposal is one of the methods we use at Mayama for the development of these life skills in children, such as creative thinking, collaborative work, stress and emotional management, problem solving, decision making. As you can see, these strategies are really integral work that we carry out here in Mayama. For 11 years, we had worked in Tlaquepaque and Tonalá, 2 municipalities of the state of Jalisco, Mexico, and our intervention is carried out in 19 highly marginalized neighborhoods, where there is the presence of organized crime, poor public transport and housing infrastructure, educational and cultural offerings are limited, and public health services are insufficient. So this is the context that where we are working since 11 years ago. These are some images of our programs, and on the left side you can see the My Development program, which is carried out in our day center. On the right side, we see the work of educators, Mayama's educators, at the homes of the families. We work with the whole family system, which is really important, as Paola talked about it. And in the middle, we observe an 8-year-old Mayama's girl who obtained her birth certificate thanks to the intervention of the My Rights program. Also, we attend situations, risk situations of violence against children, sexual abuse, and these kind of situations that compromise the human rights of girls and boys. In the long term, we seek that our intervention has a positive impact on the people and their communities through a substantial improvement in their quality of life, breaking the cycles of intergenerational violence, strengthening resilience, eradicating the worst forms of child labor, and the full compliance of children's human rights. That's our mission. So this is how we build our theory of change. With a social problem, we made some assumptions as organization. We reach this social problem through theories and approaches that are on the background of what Mayama made on the day-to-day. We have some inputs to go inside this work with families and children. We have our strategies. Then we came out with some outputs and outcomes to accomplish this social impact that we have talked, and it is really important for us to obtain. Finally, I want to thank our strategic partner, Designathon Works. Thank you very much, Anne, Emer, Michele, Nancy, everyone at Designathon Works that we have been working for 3 years since the first projects that we direct with the children and the families. And also, I want to thank to the funders of this project, Corporativa de Fundaciones, Fundación Alpura, Fundación Sertul, Fundación de Acero, APISEC. Thank you for your generous contributions, and thank you very much to everyone else for your attention.
Gracias, Gabriel. Thank you so much. I think from a Designathon standpoint, I can confidently say that you have been a wonderful and valuable partner for the work that you're doing in championing for equality, but also design thinking, which is what Designathon stands for. But I won't say much about it. I will invite my colleague Michele to share with us a little bit more about Designathon Works and how that process works together, because Gabriel has highlighted it briefly, but Michele, welcome to share with us more about Designathon Works and the method.
Sorry, I was muted. Great, thank you. Yeah, my name is Michele Tjeenk. I have been helping Emer as a learning designer at Designathon Works, and I'm stepping in for her in this session. Designathon Works was founded to spread a new way of seeing children and a new method on how to elicit their imaginative, creative ideas on big topics and big world problems, because they might be small and young, but we know they're capable of big ideas. Designathon Works' mission is to unleash the creativity of 1 million children, teaching them to become creative change makers for a better world. As we know, children already see all the big problems in the world. And so Designathon Works tackles how can our education systems respond better to children. So we ask them as well. We ask the kids what they think. And we found recently that 25% of children said they want to contribute to solving these world problems and really want to know how to think of good solutions. This came out of a study we did in the Netherlands, but extrapolated it to the Netherlands as a whole. And so the outcome being, I want to be a do-gooder, not a YouTuber, which I think is quite an inspiring outcome. So what if we radically reimagine the way we see children? What if we can help them become change makers, activists, scientists, or inventors? That's what Designathon Works wants to tackle in their workshops. How does it work? Hopefully you can see the top. Sorry, I think there's a bit of a shading there. But basically we call it the design hackathon. You might be more familiar with that term. But for children, usually ages around 8 to 12. On the right side of the screen, you see some of the big issues that we tackle with our themes. So a lot of it related to sustainable development goals and things around climate, the environment, but also justice for all, inequality. And the basic process you can see is that we inspire and inform through a presentation and interaction and questions and answers. Let the children see some good examples, look into the topic a bit more on their own, and then they come up with their own ideas, sketch their ideas. And I think what really sets it apart is that they also can make their ideas come to life. So here you see the ideation sheet, we call it. And for example, on gender equality, this is actually something we're going to do later towards the end of this session. So here is the process of how we help them during a workshop or a design-a-thon to think through the problem and come up with their own idea. And then after this, they would sketch it, and then they can make a prototype and present. So for example, here you see some children who are working on restoring ecosystems or sustainable building solutions. And here you see children who came up with, for example, a solar-powered car. Just a few of the many examples from all the design-a-thons. Design-a-thon is working globally through excellent partners like Mayama. Those partnerships are critical. So far reaching quite a lot of children in many countries, but it really is only through these great partnerships. And so we'll hear more from Julieta and Gabriel on their inequality project, and then we'll get to try it out a bit ourselves. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michele, for that introduction to Design-a-thon Works. And it's very interesting then, after hearing from Gabriel and yourself, to be able to then see how these two projects can come together and really unleash that creativity for positive outcomes. Well, without further ado, I will invite Julieta from Mayama as well. And Julieta is coordinating the My Development Program for the care of children at Mayama. She has very vast experience with managing projects, even with the Design-a-thon Method project that has been developed and delivered to boys and girls. Julieta will deliver her presentation in Spanish, and Gabriel will translate for us all to follow along with them. Julieta, bienvenida.
Adelante.
Gracias. Gracias, buenos días. Para iniciar quiero compartir con ustedes un poco del contexto donde se llevó a cabo el proyecto de desigualdad. El proyecto parte del...
Go ahead. Adelante, Julieta.
Gracias. El proyecto parte del contexto de desigualdad que ha visibilizado y profundizado la pandemia por COVID-19 al interior de las familias Mayama. Este proyecto participaron 190 niñas y niños junto con sus 127 familias y en total tuvimos una participación de 720 personas. Se realizó por medio de sesiones virtuales y presenciales en los domicilios de las familias y esto se hizo a través de nuestro equipo educativo integrado por 15 personas, entre ellas y ellos educadores, psicólogos, trabajadores sociales. Este proyecto se realizó entre el mes de agosto del 2021 y concluirá en abril del 2022.
This is a project around inequality that the pandemic has made visible and deepened within Mayama's families. We have the participation of 190 children with their 127 families for a total of 720 people. A virtual and face-to-face work was carried out at the homes of the families through our educational team made up of 15 people, most of them social workers, psychologists, and educators. It took place from August 2021 and ends in April 2022. Creator kits were delivered, which included Lego educational material and didactic materials. Also, the families were invited to reuse material.
Como comentó mi compañera Michele, los proyectos se desarrollaron a lo largo de 7 fases. las cuales iré explicando a continuación. En la primera se llama inspirar. Durante esta fase inicial, las personas identificaron la desigualdad entre hombres y mujeres respecto a oportunidades laborales y cómo esto se agudizó frente al desempleo ocasionado por la pandemia. Estas diferencias también ocurren en el ámbito privado respecto a las cargas y distribución del trabajo doméstico en las familias. También frente a la responsabilidad del cuidado de otros como niños, adultos mayores y enfermos. Niñas y niños identificaron en su contexto escolar las diferencias en aquellas cosas que permitían o no de acuerdo al sexo, como el tipo de uniforme, los espacios de juego y la integración de niñas y niños a actividades. Para que niñas y niñas comprendieran mejor el término de desigualdad, se utilizaron libros con historias que ejemplifican este tipo de situaciones. Las reforzamos pidiéndoles que realizaran dibujos para que lo presentaran con sus propias palabras.
In the unemployment caused by the pandemic, people identified the inequality between men and women based on job opportunities. These differences also occur in the private sphere with the burden and distribution of domestic work, also facing the responsibility of caring for others such as children, older adults, and sick people. Children identified in their school context the differences in those things that are or aren't allowed according to gender, such as the type of uniform, the use of play spaces, and the activity integration of girls and boys. We also use materials such as books with stories about inequality in order to understand this complex problem with children.
Una vez la problemática fue clarificada para todos los integrantes de la familia, pasamos a la fase investigar. Debido al contexto desigual respecto al acceso a las tecnologías de la información, el proceso de investigación de las familias se dio a través de consultas limitadas a Internet y principalmente a través de entrevistas con personas de la comunidad, como familiares, vecinos y amigos. También se utilizaron técnicas participativas, árbol del problema, que permitieron desarrollar el pensamiento crítico y profundizar el tema. Como conclusión de este ejercicio, se indicó de manera general que no es un tema ajeno para las personas, ya que en algún momento han experimentado situaciones de desigualdad, ya sea por su condición social, estudios, edad o género.
Once the problem was clarified for all family members, we moved on to the phase research. Due to the unequal context regarding access to information technologies and appealing to social constructivism, the research process of the families was carried out through limited consultations on the internet and mainly through interviews with people from the community, such as family members, neighbors, and friends. Participative techniques were also used, such as the problem tree, which allowed development, critical thinking, and going deeper into the subject. As a conclusion of this exercise, it was generally identified that it is not a foreign issue for people, since at some point they have experienced situations of inequality, either due to their social status, education, age, or gender.
Al término de esta investigación, niñas, niños y sus familias analizaron las diferentes situaciones que arrojaron las entrevistas y pasaron a la fase idear. Aquí se pusieron en práctica diferentes habilidades como el pensamiento crítico, la toma de decisiones y la comunicación asertiva por parte de niñas, niños, mujeres y hombres. Permitió identificar situaciones de desigualdad que observaban en los diferentes espacios sociales y familiares en su alrededor. Al identificar estos problemas, las personas plantearon diferentes soluciones y de forma colaborativa seleccionaron aquellas más viables. Durante el proceso se reforzó la escucha activa de los adultos hacia las ideas y opiniones de hijas e hijos.
At the end of the research, the girls, boys, and their families analyzed the different situations that the interviews revealed, and we move on to the stage ideate. The use of different skills such as critical thinking, decision-making, and assertive communication by girls, boys, women, and men made it possible to identify situations of inequality that they observe in the different social and family spaces. When identifying these problems, people proposed different solutions, and in collaborative way, the most viable ones were selected. During the process, the active listening of adults towards the ideas and opinions of their children was reinforced to prevent adult-centrism.
Una vez seleccionada la problemática que querían atender, niñas, niños y sus familias pasaron a la fase que les ayudaría a poner sus ideas en un diseño, es decir, la fase bosquejar. Con el uso del pensamiento creativo, el pensamiento crítico y la comunicación asertiva y la empatía, lograron plasmar en un dibujo la idea seleccionada y el diseño de una posible solución. En esta fase, uno de los hallazgos fue observar cómo las ideas de niñas y niños se contaban con la experiencia de mujeres, hombres y cuidadores en general.
Once the problems they wanted to address has been selected, the children and their families move on to the phase that would help them put their ideas into a design, that is sketching. The use of creative thinking, critical thinking, assertive communication, and empathy to translate the selected idea into a draw and finally to design a possible solution. One finding is how the ideas of girls and boys were complemented by the experience of women, men, and caregivers in general.
Al terminar un bosquejo detallado con la posible solución de la problemática seleccionada, el siguiente paso es crear. Durante esta fase, Mayama entregó a cada familia un kit de materiales, de Lego Educación y materiales didácticos. Al construir los prototipos, fue necesaria la flexibilidad de pensamiento y la toma de decisiones, ya que los cambios y adecuaciones estuvieron presentes. El compromiso de niñas, niños, mujeres y hombres se hizo presente con el tiempo dedicado y los detalles integrados.
Having a detailed outline with the possible solution that a selected problem, the next step was to create. During this phase, Mayama provided each family with a kit of Lego education materials along with teaching materials. When building the prototypes, flexibility of thought and decision-making were necessary since the changes and adjustments were present. The commitment of girls, boys, women, and men was present with the dedicated time and integrated the details.
Una vez terminado el prototipo, continuamos con la fase presentar. Las familias presentaron y socializaron sus proyectos a otras familias, educadores Mayama y un panel de expertos de otras ONG, de quienes recibieron retroalimentación positiva sobre sus trabajos. Estas presentaciones se realizaron durante el evento de niñas, niños y familias Mayama. Durante las presentaciones se pusieron en práctica habilidades como el manejo de estrés y emociones, comunicación activa y el manejo de conflictos.
Once the prototype is finished, we continue with the show phase. The families presented and socialized their projects to other families, Mayama educators, and an expert panel from other NGOs, from whom they received positive feedback on their work. These presentations were made during the graduation event for Mayama's children and families. During the presentations, the stress and emotional management, assertive communication, and problem-solving skills were put into practice.
Sin duda, fueron meses de mucho trabajo y reflexión personal y familiar. Y con esto pasamos a la última fase, donde quiero invitarlos a que vean el siguiente video, donde niñas y mujeres nos comparten algunas reflexiones a las que llegaron después de presentar su proyecto sobre la desigualdad. Gracias por su atención.
Thank you so much, Julieta. Thank you so much for that presentation. We really appreciate the work that you're doing. We're so in awe, of course, of all the team behind this project, and we're really grateful to be able to have you share those insights with us. Gabriel, is it something you would like to play on the screen?
Yes, we'll like to present our
Sure.
this insights video from women and girls that participate in this.
Absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Somos y debemos de ser tratados igual. No tiene que haber diferencias ni entre niños, adultos mayores, discapacitados. Todos en realidad tenemos que tener un mejor trato. O sea, es que pues yo tengo un cuerpo de mujer y tú tienes el cuerpo del hombre, sin embargo hacemos las mismas cosas. Y todos tenemos derecho de opinar, de hablar, de estudiar, de trabajar, de lograr lo que muchas de las veces el hombre dice que no puede, sí lo podemos hacer. Muchísimas cosas.
Somos iguales, depende, no importa el género, cultura o cualquier cosa que nos diferencie, todos somos iguales porque somos seres humanos.
Más porque ellos son hombres y tienen la fuerza de hombre y uno es mujer, pero hacemos lo mismo y trabajamos más las mujeres, pero somos iguales.
Y si ellos son violentados por los seres que ellos creen que los protegen, pues no va a haber un mundo cálido, un futuro para ellos así.
Que los hombres y las mujeres tienen los mismos derechos, como trabajar de bomberos, las mujeres también lo pueden hacer y también pueden trabajar las mujeres de policías.
Todavía hay machismo, cuando eso ya no debe de existir, porque ahorita estamos por igual, tanto hombre como mujer.
Todos tenemos que ser tratados igual.
Ser unidos, familias, papá con mamá, y los dos tener la crianza de los niños, calidad de tiempo con sus hijos para que puedan jugar, escucharlos, preguntarles.
A levantar la voz cuando se requiere, no dejarnos subajar de los hombres.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that powerful and wonderful video from the ladies. It's so nice to hear from all of them and their thoughts, which we value so much. Of course, after seeing and experiencing and learning from all these insights from Mayama, from Julieta and Gabriel, and thank you so much for that. I think it's a nice segue to also be able to experience firsthand how a design-a-thon comes together. And for that, I would like to introduce my colleague back again, Michele, who is going to take us through an experience of a online design-a-thon. Michele, welcome.
Great, thank you. And I just want to recognize the wonderful work from Mayama on going with such a sensitive topic into the home to work with the whole family. I think that should really be applauded. Yeah, it's our turn. So don't think you were going to get out of this session without participating more. We wanted to show you a mini design-a-thon and do it with you. If you remember, these are the steps of the process, and you saw them come to life just now in the presentation from Mayama's Inequality Project. We're going to focus on the same topic of inequality, but given we don't have a lot of time and we're not doing a full workshop, we've just focused it on gender equality, inequality for this session. And we are just going to look at steps 1 and 2. And if we have a few minutes, we'll spend a little time brainstorming ideas. Let's get started. So the point of these workshops is so this is targeted to children, but please participate and give any answers you would like to give. You don't have to play any kind of role as a child. The point is, based on the discussions after Paula's presentation, for example, by doing these workshops, you give children to really focus on the topic in a way maybe they never did before, and to really critically think and problem solve or think of potential solutions for, a big problem. So this is participatory. What is equality? What do you think? If in a few words, can you define equality? And please, Rihanna, Nancy, help me with anything being posted into the chat. You can also just unmute. I'd love to hear a few answers for each one of our questions. This is how we would do it during a design-a-thon with the children. So I would love to hear someone say, what does equality mean to you? Feel free, raise your hand, unmute, type in the chat box. Don't be shy.
Hi.
Yes, go for it.
Okay, I think that equality, okay, when I hear equality, I thought about same human rights and conditions.
Yeah, great, perfect. Thank you. So human rights is a topic, conditions. Would anyone else add to that? I see chats going, but I can't see them. If someone can help me out by reading them. Nancy or Rihanna, sorry, can someone read the chats for me? Sorry.
We have Miriam saying it means that everyone has the same opportunities in all aspects in life.
Yeah, opportunities.
Nancy is sharing togetherness.
Great.
Kathy is sharing everyone have the same.
Yeah.
Armando is sharing equality is about ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and talents.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a full definition.
And Kathy is sharing same opportunities and rights.
Great. Perfect. We'll move on from there. Those are great ideas. So rights, opportunities, conditions, the word same. These are the words that I'm hearing. As we know, not everyone is equal. So great ideas. And we agree, having the same human rights, having the same opportunities, that's also how we would think about equality. What do you think? Do you think that men and women have the same opportunities? Maybe hear from one or two people. What would those differences be? Do you think in your experiences, are there differences between the opportunities for men and women? Feel free to say it, or I don't know if there's anything coming in the chat.
Okay,
yes.
I think that, okay, we are all humans, but if I think about women or men, we are like a complement. But in my mind or in my spirit, I think we are this complement, but in this place right here, we don't have the same opportunities because we came from an education and a culture that restrict us from this complement, and right now we are just part of this big movement, but also we are part of this problem. So we have the opportunity to make these changes, but it's a lot of work and we are part of this. So I think I feel like a little confused all the time about this, because I know that we are a complement, but we have a lot of work to do. So that is for me the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really nice way of thinking about it. And I think it might vary a lot depending on perhaps where you live or where you come from as to how you feel about it. You might see opportunities are different in different spaces or in different ways. Is there anything in the chat, 1 or 2 ideas?
So there are 3 comments in the chat.
Yes.
Sophia is sharing, we should have the same opportunities, but in reality we don't. Miriam is sharing, equality is the opportunity to develop without discrimination by race and gender. Sorry, I'm mixing 2 up. Miriam is saying for the women, it's difficult to access better jobs and salaries. And Angelica is sharing, equality is the opportunity to develop without discrimination by race and gender, for example. And we have 2 more comments. Daniela is sharing, a few years ago, one student in her MBA made an investigation, and in Mexico, just the 5% of women get to a director's position.
Okay.
And Buddy is sharing, the goal is to have the same opportunities while recognizing the historical debt with women and the need to reduce the gender gap.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing those ideas and statistics. And I'm hearing in some of the specific examples given, I'm hearing that it's work related. And I think that's interesting. And that's what we've heard also from Paulo's presentation. And that brings us to this. So this is from a study from Mexico and Latin America, and you've maybe heard it a little bit today, but women are responsible for 80% of the household or domestic tasks, spend twice as much time on housework as men. And 1 in 4 women in a senior working position, so outside the home, consider reducing their workload or quitting because of an excessive domestic workload. Some of the cause and or effect, or the ecosystem around this, like we just heard, women then earn less than men. They're more default caregivers for children, and as we see, expected in the home. And women also experience more violence and domestic abuse, which we've heard from today's presentations. Okay, if we take it to the globe at large, we see only 24% of politicians are women. Female literacy rate is 65% globally, whereas boys read at a rate of 80%. And women only own 1% of property. Also, as a part of this, or also as a cause, 1 in 5 children get married before 18, and that is more often girls than boys. It matters, right? It matters that there might not be women in leadership roles or in top roles in companies and in government. If women marry early and then don't finish school, and then aren't owning property or land, and maybe aren't even then able to help their children or their female children to go to school, don't have control over their own bank account, then they have much less power to decide the course of their own lives. Let's hear what some women and girls around the world thought when they were asked the question, what is it like to be a woman in today's world?
Aquí en República Dominicana, ser mujer no tiene muchos privilegios.
ខ្ញុំគិតថាការដែលកើតមកជាក្មេងស្រីនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជានេះក្មេងស្រីគឺគេរំខានខ្លាំងមានសិទ្ធិគ្រប់គ្រាន់ក្នុងការបញ្ចេញមតិយោបល់
Even though things are not equal between men and women, I think just the presence of the feminist movement raises a consciousness that men and women should be treated equally.
还有说这妇女可以从事的工作相对来说也比较广了，做的事情也是这样子的哈。
Ça s'est un peu amélioré, au moins au niveau de la ville. Mais dans nos villages, tout au fond de nos villages, je vois que ce sont les mêmes conditions.
It has improved, but mildly, it takes baby steps towards change.
I have the same opportunities as a man.
Las niñas limpiamos, cocinamos y los varones, un ejemplo, se van a trabajar, a estudiar, algo así.
我们女孩有的会梳头，男孩应该不会梳头。
Ici chez moi,
les garçons font les mêmes travail que les filles.
To me, men are very lazy, and women are very hardworking.
当然有了，反正现在也没有什么像以前那什么老传统啊，现在都男女比较平等嘛，也没有什么女的地位在家非得要高一级那样的，没有。
Even in the hospital, when a woman gives birth to a child, and it happens to be a baby girl, she's not happy. She's not happy because she knows that the husband will not be happy.
ឲ្យគ្នាមករៀននេះឲ្យគ្នាទៅលក់អវ៉ាន់ឬក៏ឲ្យគ្នាធ្វើប្រហូតធ្វើអីហើយនឹងវាដំអញ្ចឹងទៅហើយអ្នកខ្លះទៅជួយដល់កូនក្មេងក៏មានដែរ
كانت زمان بس اليوم البنت قد حالها بتتعلم بتشتغل بتسافر بتروح بتعمل كل شيء
我肯定是想要女孩为什么呀因为女孩提醒妈妈呀
If I am going to change the world, we'll all be starting from myself first.
I would say for 15 years in this country, let only women be the president. Let only women rule this country.
Cosas que yo cambiaría en el mundo, hay tantas que no las sé decir, pero algo que yo cambiaría en el mundo es como el uniforme de la escuela.
We should accept the women, we should not discriminate them, we should allow them to be leaders. We should allow them to have the same positions as the men. They can do it.
Il est temps que la femme d'aujourd'hui prenne ses responsabilités, que la parité ne soit pas seulement un slogan, que la parité ne se limite pas aux listes électorales, mais que la parité puisse être effective dans la vie concrète, dans la vie courante de chaque jour.
Great. So you might have noticed there that different people from different parts of the world had some varying opinions on maybe how equal or how much opportunity they have at this moment. I think also pretty important to point out is gender inequality is not just a woman's issue, right? So it's clearly something all of us can work together on to look for ways to improve that. Now, why does it matter? Because these stereotypes and gender norms matter. And this is something really important for kids to be aware of. I'm going to move past this question because you know what a stereotype is. But we would ask then, in what ways does stereotyping cause problems for boys and girls in the world? What can you think of? What ideas come into your head? What do you expect a woman to be? What do you expect a man to be? I'd love to hear maybe just one or two ideas.
Perhaps I could share. I think it denies opportunities for both boys and girls. It tends to limit what girls are quote unquote allowed to do and what boys then are also allowed to do. Badi says it steals from the possibility to decide freely on their passions, interests, and lives in general. That is so powerful and true. And it, of course, then Daniela, you say it causes problems in the development of people. Indeed, Miriam, the idea limits the possibility to do the best of what they can do. And Rosa agrees that it denies what the person is for real, their interests and passions and development. So lots of ideas around, limiting and denying one's passions and opportunities.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, everyone. That's great. And it's not just, we don't have just problems, right? There's also lots of creative ideas and solutions. You probably are already thinking of different ways that we could help make a gender equal world. What does that, look like? How can we make that happen? That's what we would want to focus on for this last part. And there's already lots of kids and adults busy with this around the world. We'll look at just a few. For example, you have families and whole campaigns around encouraging mothers and fathers to share the chores and responsibilities at home equally. You see a picture there where they've divided all the house tasks, and to role model and to show that both can help around the house, and that you make this very obvious and inclusive of your children, boys and girls, that you that you don't only ask the girls to help clean up or only ask the boys to move things around. Okay. Another example of potential solutions is, like we talked about, saving money and having access to finance, especially for women. You see savings groups or village savings groups, women savings groups, because when people have their own money, they're more in charge of their own life. So access to finance, basically. You can make a poster or a video for social media to raise awareness about human rights for all. Can also do a march or a demonstration. Maybe design toys that are exciting for all children instead of only pink things and dolls for girls and blue cars for boys. And this brings us to the end. So now the question would be to you. If we were in the design-a-thon, we would ask you, what other ideas can you imagine to help create equality for all people? And we would get to it in groups. I think, unfortunately, today we've kind of run out of time and we want to save time for our closing. But this is, like I showed you before, what the children would work on and what you would work on at the end of that presentation. And in groups of 2 or 3, you would look at what problem around gender equality would you like to solve? Following along, who is it a problem for? Then you start to ideate. What ideas can you think of to make a more gender equal world and could solve the problem? Try to choose one idea and list it there. Can you name your idea? Can you think of a message or the best way to share this idea with others and why it's important? So this is what we would work on. Perhaps if you are thinking of, if this sparked some great ideas or something you would like to see more of in your region or world or as a project, perhaps you can mention that in our closing Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. Thank you so much for that, for taking us through what design looks like. I'm still very curious. Please feel free to input in the chat what you can imagine for a more equal world. Angelica, you are saying that in the way that it's expected that women care for children and men go to work, these you're talking to the point on stereotyping, that those are what generate the inequalities. And so I'm sure if we reverse that, those expectations around care for children, for example, and work, that's one step towards a more gender equal world. We welcome more ideas in the chat, and I'll just read those as they come through, but also any questions. We've heard a lot of interesting insights from the research, from the work that's being done, from the method that is being used. And I'm sure that a question comes up, a comment, an idea even. It would be nice to just get a sense from the room what we're all thinking and feeling and what comes up for each of us. Thank you, Michele, for that. Any questions, any ideas that we may have as we prepare to bring our session towards a close? Very much welcome, either through the chat or just unmute yourself. We'd be happy to hear and learn from you, but also answer any questions that come up from that. Thanks, Michele, for that wonderful mini design-a-thon. You've given me a lot to think about for the weekend. How can I contribute to a more gender equal world?
Thank you. Yeah, you can imagine how the children like get after this. They love this. Yeah.
Really exciting. Really exciting. Anyone who has any questions or any comments, please feel free to just unmute or jump in the chat as I prepare to welcome back Paola for our closing remarks. Oh, yeah, before that, sorry. Less than Armando, if I can just read your question out loud, less than half of Mexican women of working age participate in the labor market. We need to make real changes. I would agree with that. Any reaction from that, maybe Paola, if you have, or Gabriel, any reaction to what Armando is saying about half of Mexican women of working age in the labor market? Any other ideas are also very much welcome.
I'd love to hear opinions on paternity leave when we talk about women in the labor market.
And also from your video, I remember one of the children saying, and very seriously, you know, that, you know, men are lazy and women work hard. And we're not saying that those are facts, but it was an interesting observation.
Just a comment on Michelle's pointing out of parenting permissions and parenting the permissions for men to get involved into parenting when having a child. It's something that we have focused on and have seen in the political actions that we're trying to make, is that if we only change like the law and change the days, the number of days that a man has the permissions to get involved with their children, it is not enough. We need to change like the men's view of the importance of them being involved in a positive parenting and positive caregiving relationship with the kid, with the baby. And it's not enough to have the permission. So one thing that has been working for us as a policy making strategy is that we are changing the number of days in the law, no, and we are doing this in combination with the Secretariat of Work and Labor in the state, and we do, as a Secretariat of Equality, we do a workshop to get men involved into information and educational process in order for them to change the way they view parenting and the way they value the way they get involved in this role. So the paternity leave, you know, in a way, the paternity permission, now it gets into an action and a really change practices, you know. So it's like the paternity leave needs to be guaranteed by the men's participation in this workshop. So it's like a lock guarantee, no? That in order for it to, because if we don't do that, parents only take it like for a vacation, no, and not really getting involved. So it's still a sexist view of it. So we need to do both things together in order for it to really make a change.
I like what I'm also seeing in the chat. Miriam, using language as a powerful force that invites everyone to talk and reach agreements where they feel respected and that they're sure that their actions have real importance. That is so critical. And of course, laws and cultural shifts working together to bring about the change we want. And Daniela, you're telling us that you like the idea of role models that Michele was sharing with us, because that is indeed a part of that cultural shift. Because it still remains as a huge challenge. So as we move to close, I would just like to see everyone's smiles behind those cameras so we can get a nice picture and set this moment in our history making towards a gender equal world. It would be nice for everyone to just please show us your faces so we can get a nice picture together to mark this moment towards gender equality, and for remembering the great session that we have had so far. Rihanna, will you do the honors of taking a picture of us all together? The times we live in, huh? That we're able to all convene together in this space from different parts of the world and still enjoy and learn and grow with each other. So, Rihanna, on your mark?
Yeah, let's do 3, 2, 1. Great, right. Thank you. Wonderful.
Thanks so much. Paula, please, welcome for some closing remarks after this session. If you can just tie it all together for us.
Thank you, Nancy. And it was really interesting to listen in and reading all of the reflections and the insights that you all had, and I think it's been a really learning experience for all of us. Thank you for conducting this session, this important session. And I would like to my last intervention would like to share that as a government, the government of the state of Jalisco has a series of programs that work with the rights of children and teenagers. But in order to try to respect the time limit of our participation, I will focus on some specific actions and programs of the Secretariat of Substantive Equality Among Women and Men, which I work with, and all the team that work with. And so the Secretariat carries out various actions, one of which is Educating for Equality program. This program seeks to promote the formation of capacities in children and adolescents, as well as in mothers and fathers and caregivers and teachers and managers, in order to promote substantive equality and contribute to the eradication of gender-based violence against girls and women through a prevention methodology with a focus on children's human rights, intersectional, intercultural, and gender perspective. No, I was very pleased to see that the methodology that you use makes children to focus on the particular difference of the people that their idea is focusing on, which I think that's the value of gender perspective, no? In order to put a different glasses that let us differentiate and recognize when the opportunities for girls and boys or women and men are different, and what do we need to do in order to make them equal, not really equal in real practice and real lives, no? So adding also to this is we have the intention to join the Global Alliance for Care of that is promoted by the Instituto Nacional de las Mujeres, that the National Institute for Women and UN Women also. And this Global Alliance seeks to transform culture and reduce inequalities by guaranteeing the recognition, the reduction, and redistribution of domestic care and work among co-responsible actors, as well as the remuneration and recognition of care workers. Now, there are also other programs and activities that we're managing to do with civil society organizations, academic institutions, homes, and other spaces, which are resulting in regular awareness raising activities around the eradication of gender stereotypes and the promotion of equality and the active participation of children in the promotion of human rights. And some of these activities are, one is called Tales for Equality, and where we read sensitive stories and tales to children and adolescents and promote critical conversations to promote reflections and sensitive process to change the practices and the way that we build relationships between boys and girls and women and men. There's also, we're also participating in campaigns, activities of Fight Like a Girl in order to promote self-esteem and the knowledge of girls and women that they have their rights and that they have the same capacities as men. Also in art activities, museum tours, that we make the link between art production and the way of girls and women participated in arts, and also to make conscious of and awareness of the social conditions that are different and sometimes inequality, and what we can do to change it. And also we are promoting box classes in order to promote non-traditional activities for girls and also self-defense and strength abilities for girls and women. And also we're doing some training and activities for junior high and high school students in order for them to become agents for change in their school and communities. And I would like to end our participation by sharing some specific recommendations in order to promote sensitive gender practices and peaceful education skills for all ages. We are really convinced that prevention is the key to really transform violent practices that impact the lives of girls and women, and also to promote really equal opportunities for all. So prevention strategies based on positive parenting skills without violence in favor of gender equality which include parenting skills from a perspective of equal conditions, free of discrimination and stigma between girls and boys, and to promote healthy, peaceful, and dignified lifestyles in childhood, and in particular towards women and girls. Also, some equality positive parenting education for peace, which starts first by the freedom of recognizing and questioning social norms and practice, and in order to identify those that promote or sustain inequality and discrimination. Is like first we need to identify those, then we need to reflect on the impact that those actions that are discriminatory or not equal impact the lives of girls and women. And then after the reflection, we need to unlearn those stereotyping and discriminatory practices or education actions, and in order for us to make a renewal of our practices and social and change the way we socialize gender roles, and end practices that are discriminatory and impose them for peace and equality in our lives. Also, we need to prevent violence in childhood, in particular for reasons of gender, and with emphasis on violence against women and girls through parenting skills that align with practices in favor of equality of women and men in all its forms, and the principle of non-discrimination, as well as the absence of stigmas and stereotypes in gender roles. We also need to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls in the public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual exploitation and other forms of abuse. We do need also to recognize and value unpaid care and domestic work through public services, infrastructure, and social protection policies, and to promote shared responsibilities within the family. We need also to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health for all and sexual integral education for all. And we need to undertake reforms that recognize women's equal rights to access economical resource, ownership, and control of land and other goods, financial services, inheritance, and natural resources in accordance with the national laws. And we also need to adopt and strengthen policies and laws to promote gender equality and the empowerment of all women and all girls in all levels. We need to do this law changing, but also cultural practice changing, in order to really change the structures of the social system that we live in. And finally, we need to make a parenting tool to turn around violence and sexism. Is also to confront the challenge, and to dare to build a fair, free, and equal world that we have to come to dream of. One that transforms social space into a place and time when violence and inequality cease to be a part of our daily lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paula, for wrapping that up for us. Thank you so much for Gabriel and the work that you're doing through Mayama, and Yuli as well. Gracias. Thank you so much to the team at Designathon and all the work that is coming together for the children, not just in Jalisco, Mexico, but across the world. It's so amazing to see that the world is able to come together and work for the good of humanity and for children. I am just so proud to be a part of this network and to just be able to experience this work through all of you. So congratulations to all the team. And so full. Thank you so much for all the members, Paula, and your team members as well. Thank you so much for also being able to work very closely with this organization and to make sure that equality moves from theory and into practice. So thank you so much for all the recommendations you've made as well. I think every member joining today has had a lot to think about, a lot to learn from. And indeed, even after this session, we will all become better persons for all the things that we have experienced through all that has been shared. So thank you so much to all of you as well. Thank you for everyone who has set aside some time to join us today. It was really nice to engage with you, to experience this time together. And we're just grateful. I hope everyone had a worthwhile time. I'm grateful also for the NGO CSW66 for this forum, for this opportunity as well to put together the session and allow us to come together for these important conversations. With that, I will bring the session to an end and wish you all a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. And I hope to see you amigos soon. Thank you so much.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a great day,
you.
everyone.
Have a
Gracias.
good day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Gracias.
I'll put some music that I enjoy, so to send us off.